It is time for some College Football Confidential with 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports national college football reporter John Talty. John, there's no better resource, my man, when it comes to college football. And let's talk some North Carolina. John, great to see you, my friend. How we doing?
Great. Good to see you guys.
Look, we got 3 Belichicks now. We got 2 Lombardis on staff in Chapel Hill. Obviously, there's some buzz around the program. Everybody's talking about North Carolina. But you break it all down for us. How did all of this play out behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, they're stockpiling Hall of Famers at Colorado. They're stockpiling guys at Belichick, last name, in Chapel Hill. And so over the weekend, Bill hiring his younger son, Brian, who had been, with the New England Patriots, working his way up from a scouting assistant to an on-field coach. It's, of course, his second son now on his staff after already hiring Steve. And so you're getting a real Belichick flavor. I think this was expected from the moment that Bill was hired. There was a lot of industry speculation that part of his interest in taking the UNC job was to try to set up his son Steve down the line to be a head coach. We haven't seen that much on the college football side of things, but we've seen it quite a bit in college basketball. If you want to go, a couple of years back, Bobby Knight trying to set up his son Pat Knight within the SEC. Bruce Pearl has interest in having his son Steven take over for him at Auburn. We know Kelvin Sampson has that interest at Houston. So we've seen it kind of play out in the basketball side of things. This could be maybe the first really prominent example we're seeing in college football, maybe of a father passing down a job to a son. But, he's trying to, populate his staff with people he's familiar with that have NFL experience. And, of course, his sons fit that mold, and 2 guys who are in prominent spots within the staff.
Listen, I'm going to clear it up and get this out the way. Nepotism. Let's get the elephant out the room. What makes Brian the right hire at the safety position?
Well, I think if you're Bill, you believe that this is a guy who, of course, has learned it from you, has been in your system, from working as a scouting assistant to working his way up to a safeties coach, for the last 5 years. He was retained by Jared Mayo's staff, was not retained by Mike Vrabel, which allowed him to be open here. But I think it's, Bill's obviously a defensive guy. Both of his sons are defensive guys. And so I think there's that confidence and trust that they have grown up for years, not only just as kids, but on his staff, knowing exactly how he wants things done on the defensive side of the ball. And so that he can allow them to have more say on that side of things and allow himself to be more of a program CEO, so he doesn't have to be, as in the weeds in the early transition of trying to get that thing up and running, where there's so many problems and things that they're having to deal with right now as a college football head coach. You've got your 2 sons who really understand what you want defensively on that side of the ball. I think it'll allow you to focus on getting NIL, portal, all the other things that they have to figure out going at the same time in this, crazy transition period.
Well, again, just going back to being a former coach and being around a first-time coaching staff and just getting into it from the NFL to college, the number one thing that you always want is someone to be able to get what you want done without you being around. And if it's always not hiring your buddies or hiring your best friend or hiring someone in your family, but it's hiring somebody that knew exactly what you wanted to get done, when you wanted to get done, how you want to get done. So this is not surprising, nor should anyone look at it saying, oh, my God, he's just hiring his kids. No, he's hiring a qualified coach that knows how to get it done. Because this defense that they're going to run, if you haven't played in it, was born in it, lived it, you have to be able to make checks like this on the fly without going back to the manual and going back to the book.
My take on it, and it kind of goes back to when I was covering Notre Dame, when you brought up hiring your buddies, hiring your friends, hiring people you're familiar with, that, in my opinion, is what led to Brian Kelly going 4-8 at one point. And when he goes outside of his tree and he hires Mike Elko and he hires Clark Lee and he hires Chip Long, they immediately started that run of 10-win seasons. So, again, this may be the right move. It could be the perfect move. Time will tell. But I do think that these moves, I think people are allowed to be a little skeptical with them.
Yeah, and Tom, to your point, I mean, you guys are, I'm certainly aware of this. There is skepticism within the college football industry about the staff that's been put together. I think for the reasons that you guys talked about. I mean, there is a lot of family connections here. It's guys that he has worked with in the past, or in some way connect back to guys he's worked with. I mean, you've got Michael Lombardi, who he worked with in New England. They've been tight for a really long time. That's his first GM hire, and he's a former Browns GM, very well qualified. Hires his son, Matt, who's been at the NFL level, was most recently at Oregon. Then he hires Garrett McGee, college guy. Well, he worked together with Lombardi's son, Matt, at Louisville. So there's all these kind of ties back to each other. I think there's, like you said, there's two different ways of, kind of looking at this. Nick Saban used to hire a lot of guys within his system too. It was very successful for a long time. Then things got a little stale. And especially offensively, he had to hire guys outside of that system to kind of bring, like you said, innovation, creativity. We're seeing Bill lean into what he knows. Where that works, I mean, the guy's won 8 Super Bowls, so who am I to say that it's not going to be successful? But I do think that there are questions about whether it's going to work in the college level, just because it's such a pro-heavy staff in terms of their background and what they have the most experience in.
Yeah, just looking at the offensive side, you got two guys that I'm pretty familiar with, Will Friend and Freddie Kitchens. Same thing. Both of those guys played together at Alabama. They worked together in the Cleveland Browns. And they just understand exactly what year one should look like. And there's a bunch of things in terms of install, player communication, player development. What stage should we be at in week 1 or 2? And then you have Natron Means, Mr. North Carolina. I always thought it was very important to hire someone that could connect to the program. That meant a ton, that whatever he said and when he showed up to work, you knew that was a Tar Heel showing up to town. So again, I think we're going to look at it and say, oh, he should have hired this guy, should have hired that guy. And you said time should tell. But two things can be true. You can put a staff together that have cohesiveness and they're very connected and it goes south. Or you can put that staff together like he's always done in his career, of guys playing together on the football field, but the staff working together in the classroom and in the meeting rooms. And typically, Belichick wins with this formula.
I'm a fan of what he did, and it simply comes back to having a respect and an understanding of Bill Belichick as a whole. I think that these are the right moves to make him the most comfortable. I don't think he's going to be at UNC for a very long time. I just don't think it's going to be the job that he ends his career with. I don't think it's going to be like this long run out 5-10 years. I don't even think he's going to be there for 5 years. It could potentially be a one and done. It's very possible. I don't know how long Bill Belichick's going to be at UNC, but I do think that his mind is that I'm going to put the best staff around me to win as quickly as possible, hit the portal hard, and do a phenomenal job in year one and try to get these, just right the ship as quickly as possible.
Tom, I'm going to say it. You don't want to say it. I'll be the bad guy here. You're thinking one and done, and I'm setting my son up to be the next head coach and my other son to be the defensive coordinator and the offensive staff's put together. That's what I got out of it. I don't know what you got out of it, Talty, but that's what he basically said without saying it.
And that's what the industry speculation was, right? I mean, I think when he took this job, and let's back up it, from the minute Bill Belichick interviewed for the job, there was skepticism, like, why would he want this job, right? And I think even, going around the NFL cycle, you felt like, all right, these are jobs that could fit him. Didn't want to go them. He wanted to be at UNC. And I think people continue to come back to, is he trying to set up Steve to be the head coach down the line? Now, there's already been, some different speculation and reporting by people like me and others that, this was an unconventional coaching search that even led to Bill Belichick, right? Working trustees, kind of working outside the system to try to bring Bill Belichick in. So, we know it's not in a contract. It's not a head coach in waiting deal like we saw back in the day. Is there a wink deal? Who knows? I mean, I think that there was speculation that might have been part of the ask. To the best of my knowledge, it's not in place, but who knows what might have been agreed to by someone down the line. And I think that, that's part of where I think that speculation is going to continue to be around ultimately, is how long is he going to be there? And then if he leaves, is there a transition set up in place? And, I think one thing to note too is that Steve did a great job at Washington this past year, very highly regarded. Like, he could be a head coach candidate in his own right. Doesn't have to be set up by his dad, but certainly he could get it up and running and really, kind of hand over what could be a great job.
John, you're one of one in this industry, and always a pleasure to talk to you, man. So I appreciate you taking the time and joining us here. For more from John Talty and his incredible expertise as it pertains to college football, check out his latest book, The Price, What It Takes to Win in College Football's Era of Chaos. Smoke, kind of quickly, just kind of sum everything up, man. What do you think of the staff that Bill Belichick put together?
Like you said, time will tell, but I'm on the high side of saying I've seen him hire, and he's always done a good job of hiring guys that want to get what he wants done. And that could not be said more of in this new era, where it's more of coaching, less recruiting. Yeah. And when you have that in place, you can go get the guys that you want to get. So now that you can go get the players that you want to get, you can now put together a staff that you know are good teachers, good developers, and it's going to help you get those W's and have you have a peace of mind at the end of the day.